Hi, everyone. It's Roberta Fusaro, and today we have a special episode of the McKinsey Podcast. McKinsey Partner Ferry Grijpink is here. He was live on the scene this morning at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Mobile World Congress, or MWC, is one of the largest gatherings of mobile technology industry professionals. Thank you, Ferry, for taking time to chat with us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Ferry, what's the single most talked about topic at Mobile World Congress this year?
I think the most exciting topic is what's happening in 5G APIs. The most talked about, of course, is AI. Everybody talks about AI. Last year, Gen AI was just, coming about. So people were excited, but there was no depth. And this year, you actually see everybody talking about how Gen AI can help in call centers, in marketing, in network performance. So we went from AI is exciting to real specific use cases that can change the industry.
What's the story about 5G? How is that evolving? And are we hearing about 6G?
Let's not talk about 6G yet, because we first want to make some money out of 5G. So the operators put about $1 trillion into their infrastructure to get 5G, and they haven't seen any return. And the hope is that APIs that give you access to that capabilities to developers to build new applications will finally give them a little bit of money out of it, which they can then hopefully in 5 to 10 years put into 6G. They announced an initiative last year called Open Gateway, the operators, which was brand new. And this year we all came back and we said, did they actually do something with it? And in this time, they actually did follow through. They launched hundreds of APIs. There was a CEO of a bank that actually explained by using this API, he can kill fraud, ATM fraud. So there are really industries coming that say, hey, these APIs are launched, they're great, and they actually deliver value. And it's interesting, this is not happening in the US or in Europe. This happened in Brazil, this happening in Sri Lanka, this happening in South Africa. So it's a truly global phenomenon.
Is there anything that you're hearing or you're seeing on the ground that surprised you? Are there other topics that are emerging that you hadn't anticipated would be discussed at the conference?
So a lot of activity around the industrial internet, which isn't, was it sexy 5, 6, 7 years ago? Then it became a little bit out of the hype cycle. And now you see a lot of, there were manufacturers, there are people building drills, there were people with cars, there were people with heavy equipment that are using, mobile networks to be operated from remotely or being monitored. So what I thought interesting is it got a little bit out of the mainstream, but then if you walk the halls here and there are like 8 halls, there are 100,000 people, there are hundreds of exhibitors, and then you suddenly see a drill, which you don't expect to see in a mobile conference. So very interesting to see that the industrial internet is actually coming about and people see real benefits of these technologies, and they're now finally getting into productivity, which is very exciting to see.
We've written a lot in McKinsey about tech talent and the need for it in telcos. I'm curious if there's been any discussion about that or anything that you've heard around trends in tech talent or how things are changing.
So, and that's a very great question, because the industry has a talent problem. Because what happened is it's an industry that is shrinking a bit from a labor force point of view. And it also had a lot of government regulation around it. So they have stopped hiring, and you actually do see a talent deficit. And we want to do things in AI, we want to do things in digital, we want to do things in better marketing. And the talent wasn't there. You see a lot of telcos now really rethinking what's the talent value proposition? How do I bring people about? But also the industry really needs to work on diversity, needs to really try to get different races, men, women, but also younger, which is really needed. And I think it's in the forefront of everybody's discussions. If we want to transform, we need a different set of people. And how do you attract that? And, people are really talking about what are my value proposition? Because it is truly exciting. We've connected 5 billion people. There are more people with mobile phones than people with electricity. So what we're doing is very, very exciting. And often it comes back to the dough, how much money do we make? And well, if you really see, also during COVID, the story around homeschooling, homeworking, how do we solve some of the crises of loneliness? These technologies can really help. And you see slowly, and I think it's not going fast enough, people really pivoting what this industry is doing. And if you actually look at the results, it's actually quite exciting. But we often get lost in 5G, 6G, APIs, AI, instead of telling the story. We're connecting people, we're connecting things. We're making you able to work remotely. We get you access to the best content, to education. And I think that story needs to be told. We help people to connect with their relatives. It's a fascinating product we have. And sometimes we make it too boring because we're engineers, slightly older engineers, and then you over-index on the technology side.
Right. That's what I love about a conference like this is that it shines a spotlight on something that we all take for granted, right?
When I was young, and I'm close to 50 now, if you would have told me I could anywhere in the world pick up a phone, take a video call with my mom, I would have told you crazy. And we all take it for granted that I was in Africa, I was in Rwanda, and I just FaceTime my daughter to help her with mathematics. And then, we talk about bits and bytes, and we talk about money and ROIC and WACC. What we delivered as an industry is truly insane. We shouldn't forget is how cool is what we're doing every day.
As the event wraps up, any other thoughts?
I think the last point, of course, that it was the first time after COVID, actually whole of Asia was also there, because the last couple of years, Asia didn't come. And now it was a truly global event again, which was quite exciting.
Any good paella? What's been your favorite meal at MWC?
We had a guy cutting jamon. He took a little piece off and he says, this is the best piece. And he gave it to me. And he was absolutely right. It was the best ham I've ever tasted. So it was amazing.
That's fantastic. Ferry, thank you again. I know we had some connection problems, which is ironic, but thank you for joining the podcast.
Very exciting. Thank you for having me.